Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're cracking open a fascinating EPA guide designed for commercial kitchens. But as we dig into this document together, it really quickly turns into an eye-opening playbook on sustainability for all of us. If you've ever wondered what actually happens behind the scenes of your favorite buffet or restaurant, well, get ready, because the reality of what gets thrown away is honestly wild.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to look at the wasted food epidemic, the massive costs to both the planet and profits, step 1, which is tracking the trash, the food recovery hierarchy, and finally, some real-world strategies for source reduction.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the wasted food epidemic, the invisible crisis in our kitchens.
So, let's look at the data. In just a single year, over 33 million tons of food end up in landfills in the U.S. alone. 33 million tons. That is just a monumental amount of discarded sustenance.
To actually wrap our heads around that staggering number, let's put it into perspective. Imagine the Rose Bowl Stadium. That 33 million tons is the equivalent of filling that entire massive stadium right up to the brim with discarded food every single day. Just picture that concrete bowl overflowing with edible food 365 days a year.
And, it's a huge piece of a much wider issue. When you look at our municipal solid waste as a whole, nearly half of everything sitting in those landfills, 45% to be exact, consists of just food and packaging. It's literally the single largest component of municipal solid waste we produce.
Moving on to section 2, costs to planet and profits, the dual threat of waste.
Wasting all this food is incredibly expensive. We're talking a bleed of roughly $100 billion with a B annually from the commercial food service industry. It's a massive hit to the bottom line, and it's almost totally driven by overpurchasing, extra labor, and bloated disposal costs.
But honestly, beyond the wallet, it's absolutely devastating for the planet. When all that food rots in a landfill, it releases methane. And methane is a greenhouse gas that is 21 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Overall, 13% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions come from the life cycle of our food. And get this, it's the craziest part. We use over a quarter of all U.S. fresh water just to grow food that we ultimately throw away. It's wild.
So how do we actively tackle this? Well, the EPA guide notes that we first have to categorize our waste. First up, we have avoidable waste. This is essentially a total management failure. It's food that could have easily been prevented from going to waste. Think of an entire, untouched tray of lasagna left over at a buffet just because of over-preparation. Second is possibly avoidable waste. Now, this category just requires a little bit of culinary creativity. It's food that might seem inedible at first glance, but can absolutely be repurposed. For example, using beet tops exactly like you'd use spinach, or turning slightly stale bread into delicious croutons instead of just tossing it out. And third is unavoidable waste. These are the things we physically cannot eat, like banana peels or peach pits. But here's the trick. We really need to shift our mindset. We have to start seeing this not as trash, but as a valuable resource for other processes, like composting or anaerobic digestion.
Which brings us to section 3, step 1, track the trash, data as the ultimate weapon.
Tracking proves this whole thing isn't just abstract theory. If an operation uses the EPA tracking tool and sees that exactly 25 pounds of chicken was specifically sent back by customers, the manager immediately knows they have a highly targeted issue. It's not just, oh, we waste food. It's our customers are actively rejecting our chicken. So they immediately know they need to adjust the recipe, the prep, or maybe the portion size. The data absolutely dictates the action.
All right, section 4, the food recovery hierarchy, the EPA's blueprint.
So the EPA developed this progression pyramid to establish a structured methodology to handle excess food. It basically ranks actions from your most preferred solution all the way down to your least preferred, based entirely on environmental impact.
Right up at the very top of our pyramid is the most preferred solution, source reduction. The crucial point here is that the absolute best way to handle waste is simply to not create it in the first place. This means shrinking the volume of surplus food before it is ever generated through smarter purchasing and smarter prep.
Moving down the hierarchy, if a surplus is unavoidably created, the next vital step is taking that extra, perfectly safe, wholesome food and donating it to food banks and shelters to feed hungry people in the community. Building farther down, if the food is, no longer fit for human consumption, we divert those scraps to feed animals. And if you were to look further down the hierarchy, you'd find industrial uses and composting for the truly unavoidable scraps.
And then jumping all the way to the very bottom point of this pyramid, we hit the absolute last resort, which is sending materials to a landfill or an incinerator. Honestly, if we are doing our jobs right up at the top of the pyramid, almost nothing should ever make it down here.
Finally, Section 5, Strategies for Source Reduction, turning theory into real-world action. One brilliant, real-world fix highlighted in the guide is going trayless. A 2008 study of 25 college dining halls found this amazing psychological trick. Simply removing the trays stopped people's eyes from being bigger than their stomachs. Without a giant tray to just load up, people took only what they could actually hold, reducing waste by a massive 25 to 30%.
Behind the scenes, kitchens can implement some really effective, structured steps. Step 1 is just-in-time purchasing, which ensures you only buy exactly what you need right when you need it. Step 2 is rigorous FIFO storage. That's first in, first out, guaranteeing older items are used up before they spoil. And Step 3 is an ask-first plating policy. Instead of automatically throwing a pickle or a side salad on every single plate that might just get thrown away, the staff simply ask the customer if they actually want it first. Super easy.
Understanding this framework changes how you see your meals entirely. It totally pulls back the curtain on the invisible waste happening in kitchens every single day. So I'm going to leave you with this. Next time you dine out, what hidden waste is sitting right there on your plate? And how can you actively help shrink that daily Rose Bowl of waste tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today.